Hey, what's up? It's Joe. Welcome to my 5 Minute Friday for January 5th, 2024. So I hope you all had a great holiday and a fantastic new year. And let's jump into it. Got a lot to cover. So it's no secret that data modeling has been top of mind for me for the past year. Traveled the world giving a talk, some form or another, called Data Modeling is Dead, Long Live Data Modeling. And yeah, it gave me the opportunity to do a couple things, right? It gave me the chance to test out the idea for this book I've been telling you about on data modeling. More of that in a second. I think more important, it gave me the opportunity to see if I was completely full of crap, right? It was my hunch that data modeling is a topic that a lot of people have thought about, and a lot of people feel like it's sort of on the way out. I think this concerns a lot of people. And at least that was my hypothesis, right? And I feel like the other hypothesis was, if we can't get back to basics with good data practices, good data hygiene, modeling being one of them, modeling being a very important part of this, then when are we ever going to do this, right? And then I suppose if we don't do it, then what are the consequences? Well, we'll get into all this in a bit. And so this has been top of mind, and I think my hunch was very much validated, right? No matter where I went in the world, I've talked to countless people about the topic of data modeling. People of all, ages, experience, location, title, and no matter what, it seemed like people had various reactions to my talks, but overwhelmingly, there was a sense of people saying, thank you for bringing this up. It's been on my mind. I wasn't sure if I'm going crazy thinking about data modeling and whether or not it actually matters anymore. But, it turns out that a lot of people do think that data modeling does matter and that it's incredibly important and that we need to, I think, get back to the lost art of data modeling. I could make a very strong argument that data modeling it's on life support at best, possibly dead in some circles. And there are some people that would say that data modeling doesn't matter. Right? And if we take this claim at face value, then I suppose this means that we don't need to think about how we structure our data for use. It means that we can just kind of treat data as an ad hoc exercise and an ad hoc ingredient. And if you take this to its logical conclusion, this results in chaos. I have no other way of putting it. Some people say that data modeling is not a thing. I would say that anytime you touch data, you are inherently modeling it in your head. The way I describe data is it's data modeling is it's a way of using data to facilitate a believable, useful information, knowledge, and actions for both humans and machines. This is, I think, pretty close to other definitions of data modeling in its pure sense. Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say it's Kimball or COD or any of these approaches, which are fine on their own. But I take a step back. Modeling is very much thinking about data and how you use it to provide outcomes and actions. It's about conceptual modeling. It's about logical modeling. Maybe finally it's about physical modeling. All too often we start and end with the physical modeling. Right? Just throw it into a database, throw it into a data lakehouse, call it a day, query it, federate it, right? But again, if you don't have an idea of how this data is used and what it means and what it represents and how it ties back to the organization you work in, I would say you're setting yourself up for failure. So I think data modeling does matter. I think you're doing data modeling whether you recognize it or not. And the lack of a data model is still a model. It's just a very crappy data model. And so what does this have to do with practical data modeling, the title of this podcast? Well, practical data modeling is a new project that I'm launching on Substack. So it's been no secret that I've been working on a book about data modeling. And as I thought through 2023 about the nature of a book, I felt that for something like this, where we're maybe attempting to describe practices or attempting to describe a way of thinking, and this is very much a collaborative exercise. I felt like a book is one facet of how we solve this problem. of bringing data modeling back to life, and I think educating a new generation of data practitioners and software engineers and so forth on data modeling. But a book on its own is just a book, right? And I know this because when I wrote Fundamentals of Data Engineering, I wrote a book and that went out in the wild. Thankfully, it became insanely successful and very popular, and I'm definitely grateful for that. But then I started having discussions in book clubs and all these follow-on talks about the book. And I felt like, it would have been handy for me as an author to have these discussions while I've been writing the book. I think it would have been handy and very helpful for people to have that discussion with the author while the book was being written, and to have that discussion not just with me, but with other practitioners, and try and learn the field of data engineering from first principles, which is what we wrote about in Fundamentals of Data Engineering. At the same time, I feel like the nature of book publishing is changing, right? ChatGPT came out, large language models are out, and there's no shortage of the capability to produce as many books as you want. Now, whether those books are any good or not, I think it's a different question, but that's an aside. I mean, I know with my book, Fundamentals of Data Engineering, the one that Matt Housley and I wrote, there are countless knockoffs on Amazon that I see, right? If you go on there and type in Fundamentals of Data Engineering, you'll see not only our book, but many others with the same title. And I just expect that this is going to continue proliferating, where books on their own are not going to be as valuable as they used to be. I feel like we're going to have to do things that AI can't do things that can't be cheapened by some author who just, I'll use the author very loosely in this case, but by somebody who just takes your title of a book and, sort of bastardizes it with a large language model and tries to write on your, the success of a title, right? I think it's going to be too easy to make books, and what's going to be hard to replicate. And more importantly, what's needed for a topic like data modeling is a community of people, a community of passionate practitioners, a community of passionate enthusiasts who want to learn from each other, want to learn, the different techniques of data modeling up and down the data lifecycle, who want to, explore the classical methods, maybe it's Kimball Relational, Data Vault, and so forth, and new methods as well, right? I think since, Kimball came out in 1996 with his book and Data Warehouse Toolkit, and then what was it, Data Vault? I think that was 2000. That was first published, and in my opinion, there haven't really been any big movements in data modeling since then, right? And along the way, you've seen a ton of advancements in architectures and technologies, big data, right, being one of them in the 2000s, and that ushered in a whole slew of different types of technologies and ways of handling data. You had event-driven architectures and streaming. That's fundamentally different than how we model for databases. They have to be. Application developers are using a lot of NoSQL and caching mechanisms and logs and all kinds of stuff, right? Then throw on top of that AI and machine learning. And suddenly you realize that the methods that we've been taught to use in data modeling, the old techniques, which are certainly still valid ways to think about data and implement it, but the world's also moved beyond those methods. So if you think that you can use relational data modeling for a relational database, and those same concepts will transfer over to something like a vector database, well, I think you should know what a vector database is and why that might not be maybe the right mental framework to use. Certainly, relational modeling does have a time and place for abstracting away data sets and removing redundancies and dependencies and making very great data sets. Hell, it's based on set theory and first predicate logic, so it does work. It's math, but it's one approach, and it's not the only approach. And I think that we need to come to the realization and the acceptance that there are various techniques and approaches to modeling data and handling data up and down the data lifecycle. If you're a software engineer, you're not going to be using analytical techniques. If you're an analytical engineer, you're probably not going to be using software engineering techniques for modeling data. But this is a recognition that data flows in a continuous fashion from one use case to another. And all too often, what I find with practitioners, whether they're talking software engineers or data practitioners or ML engineers, is we're so fixated on our side of the universe that we lose fact of the site that data comes from somewhere and it goes somewhere else. And if we're going to move towards a data product-centric world, right? Or we're delivering data products, which I think where we're going. Modeling is going to be central to this, knowing all the various facets of modeling. It's something I've called mixed model arts in other talks and maybe this podcast, but mixed model arts really extends from the notion of mixed martial arts, which is if you're a master of one technique, say Shaolin Kung Fu or something like that, and you try and go into a jiu-jitsu match, chances are you're going to get killed or lose a limb at a minimum. And so in mixed martial arts, you have to be good at a lot of different styles of martial arts. Knowing one martial art and seeing that's a true way is not going to get you anywhere. And in fact, not knowing any martial arts, which I equate to being a street fighter, which is sort of the equivalent of not thinking data modeling is important. Well, you see what happens to street fighters when they get in MMA matches. They get killed. It's not a good ending. And so I was thinking a lot about how MMA applies to data modeling, because it's how my brain works. And mixed model arts is one of the things I'll be exploring as well in the Substack. So anyway, the Substack is called Practical Data Modeling. It's at practicaldatamodeling.substack.com. And I'll be releasing further explanation of kind of what I just talked about here in this 5 now going on 11-minute rant here. But so I think this kind of squares the circle, answers a few questions. Why is data modeling important? Why have I been looking at it very deeply? What the hell happened to this book that you're writing, Joe? So the early chapters of my book are going to be released on the Substack. I'm still going to do a final book, but I think that's just the nature of book writing and launching a book. This is definitely a project that I'm exploring, right? I don't know that I'll nail it with this one, maybe with others, but I feel like just the nature of publishing is going to change, and I'm definitely willing to take this gamble on this project here, and hopefully it adds a lot of value to you, right? I urge you to sign up if data modeling is something that you think about. I'd be excited to be able to interact with you. There'll be a free and a paid version. I'm working on those payment tiers right now. But I think it's going to be a great value add, even if you pay for it. I hope you do. It helps support me, and it helps support the work I'm doing. But more importantly, it helps support a community of practitioners and enthusiasts that are coming together to push each other, to learn from each other, and bring data modeling back to life. I think at the end of the day, for our industry to move forward, we're going to have to get back to basics. And this is hopefully one of the big steps to getting there. So I'm very excited to have you along the journey for practical data modeling, and I'll see you there. Thank you very much. Thanks.